One.
I need to hear the word go.
Go.
Hello, and welcome to the Comedy Studio Podcast, the only podcast. I'm your host, Danny Hatch. I'm here with your other host, Eli Levy.
Hello.
Hi, Eli. Welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you doing?
Another special week for us special boys. I'm doing pretty good. We're in a little bit. We're gonna speak to Drew Dunn, who is one of the 2019 Just for Laughs new faces. He's the winner of a number of comedy festivals. He's a comedy studio regular. We'll be talking to him in about half an hour. But first, we've got our first special guest, always in the hot seat, the Andy Richter chair. Please welcome to the show the owner of the comedy studio, Rick Jenkins.
Hello.
Hi.
Happy COVID.
Happy
Happy
COVID.
How are the two of you handling it? Any ups, any downs?
I'm taking baths and lighting candles.
You're lighting candles in the bath.
Goodness.
Not at the same time, separately.
But you light a candle and you that sounds so nice. The ambiance. I don't have any candles to light.
Something
I
very.
should do that.
I can't get over the idea of soap scum in the bathtub.
Oh,
Nick,
there's
you're
so
so
much
immature.
There's so much worse out there in the wild.
Yeah.
Yep, I mean, just a good scrubbing shower, good hot scrubbing shower. I just feel so much more clean.
Mhm. And what did the bottom of your feet say to that? Standing on all that soap scum.
I wash
'Cause-
the bottom of my feet.
Because now, yeah, sure you do. That's what they all say. Because now I'm distributing all the
I'm
soap
also
scum
very
across
happy
the
now.
entire. Please continue.
I am very happy. I now have one of those shower heads that you actually take off and use your hand.
Use
and
it to
I have
masturbate.
no idea how much more I would enjoy that.
Sure. Kinky, you sound like a 15-year-old girl discovering her body for the first time.
Very similar.
If this is in the new apartment, this new shower head,
Yes.
and it came with the joint.
Yeah. I never would have thought. I never would have thought to change my shower head, but I'm enjoying it very much.
And is it a combination bath shower, or is it a tub with a shower head, or is it just
Yes.
like a shower?
Yes. Tub
So
with
then,
shower.
and you live alone.
Mm-hmm.
What's the big deal, man? Just take a bath. It's just your shower.
I don't take a bath to get clean. I take a bath to think.
Ah.
You can do both. I mean, there have been decades of anti-bath propaganda floating around out there. Oh, you're just lying in your own filth. Oh, the soap scum. Well, have you ever thought about maybe you're not?
I think the fact that you can actually see the soap scum on the top of the water is the part that.
Oh,
Well-
barely. You barely can. You make a little
Knowing
wave in the
that
water
as
like
a-
you're a captain of a ship, and the soap scum goes away.
If I myself am
You get
garbage,
up.
there's nothing that soap
Oh,
scum
well.
can. If I'm garbage,
Up, or do you
soap
let the
scum is
water
nothing
drain?
compared to me.
What's that, Rick?
Do you get up or do you let the water drain?
Oh, I let it drain.
I get up.
I like to be almost completely dry by the time I get out of the bathtub. I let it drain. This is true. I let it drain. I look at my phone. I continue listening to my podcast or audiobook. And I just let the day wash over me like the soap scum. It's a nice, refreshing feeling. It makes me feel good. I haven't died yet. I've been doing this for years. I think it's working.
If it makes you feel any better, Rick, I take a bath and then I go jump in the lake to clean myself off from all the soap
I think
scum.
that's gonna be something interesting. Like our generation, when we have grandkids and such, that'll be something that'll be like, wash your hands, do all these, do all these, healthy, wash, shower, wash, sanitize, all that sort of stuff. I think it's gonna be, oh yeah, well, Grandpa's like that because he grew up during the COVID.
So you say our generation, and when we have grandkids,
Well,
what do you mean by that when you say our generation?
I place myself, I place myself as more of an observer, but
Well,
I'm saying, the COVID as one giant generation of being like the Depression or the Second World War.
You think that's going to be the new delineator? We're going to say goodbye to Gen X and Gen Z, and it's just going to be the COVID generation?
Yes, I think
Wow.
generations go by events rather than decades. I think the 60s the 60s started when Kennedy was assassinated. I think the 70s started when Nixon resigned. I think that the big societal things is what sort of delineates the generations rather than, the calendar happens to say it's 1981.
So you think
The
we
80s, I
are?
think the 80s, I think, was Reagan being inaugurated.
So the fact that you remember all of these, and neither Eli nor myself were alive for any of them, that doesn't make you think maybe we're not in the same generation? This is fascinating to me because we're,
I have a feeling that
Brenda's
we're
dad
different
especially is a big
generations.
proponent of this generational theory.
No, yeah. I'm definitely a different generation. The only question
Okay.
for us is whether I'm 2 generations removed or 1.
What do you?
I'm right on the edge of I could be a boomer. I was born in '61, so
I think you're.
so yeah, I'm right on that line. But
Well, do you identify as a boomer or as a Gen Xer?
I really, really see myself more as neither. As just sort of like on the edge and
Nomad.
observing both.
He's his own generation. Generation R.
I see you as
I
pretty squarely
dislike
Gen
that
X.
boomer generation so much because I feel that they're so
Did a great job.
hypocritical.
Oh, we have a comment for you, Danny.
Okay, let's hear it.
James Husey says,
Ah.
he says, zing, Danny. He said you gave a good zinger.
Oh, I gave a good zinger? I don't even remember. Fun story about James Husey. First Boston comic I ever met, I think. He got a Keurig in the booth the first night I worked at the studio.
He loves those Keurigs.
And was very nice to me, and that's all it takes to make you my favorite. So, James Husey, between the Keurig and the being nice and the saying zing right now, you have won the coveted Danny Hatch Gold Medal of Boston Comedy. You can claim your prize at my house.
What do you remember of that first night?
I was very scared. I wanted to be on time because I didn't realize you didn't give a shit about that at all. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't late. We had I don't know if you remember, Rick. You had met with me at Starbucks. We had a job interview at the Starbucks next to Micro Center. And you asked me about my experience, and I said, well, I used to work for this podcast. We went on tour. We played the Comedy Studio in Los Angeles. And you said, no, you didn't. You played the Comedy Store in Los Angeles. I own the Comedy Studio in Boston. And I said, oh, my God, did I just lose this job?
Oh, no.
Come anyway. And Brett trained me on the booth, and I remember thinking, I thought Brett was a great teacher. He was very patient with me and very informative, and I just felt instantly welcomed. So that's what I thought, bitch.
Yeah, what was the hang of it? I always think of our systems being so simple but quirky because it was all put together organically.
Yeah, at the time, it was difficult because it was a system of DVD players and DVD recorders, and one of them worked pretty good and one of them worked really bad, and it was just a time. I just had to learn the timing.
Yeah.
It was a little tricky to master at first. And I also remember, I think I fucked up. Eugene Merman dropped in very early on when I first started working there, and I fucked up his recording, and I was having a panic attack, and I ran downstairs to the second floor bar where you were to try to get you to be like, I don't know what happened. Please help me. And you're like, whatever. And I think Vanessa, if you remember, Vanessa was also there, and I kept apologizing to her, and she's like, stop apologizing. It's fine. I was really concerned with making a good impression. Vanessa Myers.
Okay.
Was there another Vanessa?
There was a Vanessa back before that. Really, really interesting woman in that her mother actually was executive producer for Dick Cavett and was one of the big people on SNL. One of the big HBO producers in comedy.
Well, it wasn't her. It was the Vanessa I know. What was your impression of me, Rick, starting out? What did you think of me? I love this shit, but only if it's nice. If not, I will.
This guy looks like he takes a lot of baths.
Forget it.
You know what? I felt like you were you were overqualified for the job, but if you want to help out, great.
Now we know I was exactly qualified.
Yeah.
No more, no less.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't been to the Comedy Store. You must be. Oh.
The Comedy Store. Wow.
Wow.
What a resume, Danny.
Night I was there. So I was there because I used to work for Keith and the Girl, and that has soured. But we went on a tour in the fall of 2015, and the Comedy Store is one of the venues we played. The night we were there, the very next night after that, there was that shooting on the pavilion, if you remember that. One of the comics got shot. That was the night
Yeah.
after we were there. And I was like, wow, almost part of
Night
history.
after? So did you know going in?
Night after. No. We were, it was the night after we were there. So we were on the way to Vegas by then, I think.
When did you find out?
Or we were in Vegas or whatever. But it was I don't know. We were on the bus, I think, and we saw the news on our phones. We were also recording a documentary that Keith of Keith and the Girl, he apparently got drunk and knocked over the hard drive containing all the footage, and so the documentary just will never exist. But I think we probably filmed our reactions to getting the news, but no one's gonna see it now.
Yeah. Well, we should let people know, if you don't know, there was basically what happened was one of the comedians had apparently a beef with someone, and there was like a drive-by in front of.
Yeah.
What,
Yep, it was a drive-by. It wasn't like it wasn't a mass shooting. You know, it wasn't like a random gunman. It was targeted, and I think the comic died who got shot. I think he died like he might have even bled out on the pavilion. It was super dark. So that is when I decided.
What's the pavilion? That's like that outdoor seating area at the
Yeah.
front?
Yeah.
No, the entrance,
Okay.
like the entrance where all the comics would hang out. I think he was just there with other comics. It must have been an open mic night or something. And whoever did the drive-by must have had impeccable aim, or the comic was just like,
Very impressive aim.
Yeah, it feels weird to be
A feat.
complimenting a murderer on his aim or her aim. I don't know.
Yeah, the person driving was like, "Wow, man, you've really improved."
You nailed it. So that was my brush with history. Still to this day, I've only ever seen that part of LA. We were in LA for like one night, and I've always wanted to go back and explore more because I only saw.
Did you get to the Improv or the
no,
the Improv or the Factory or anything?
Nope. We parked our bus in the parking area behind, or like out back, not a parking area, but there's like where the kitchen entrance is. We parked our bus there, and we did the show. And I think we had tacos like next door or something. And then we got on the bus and drove. We didn't see any more of LA. Which I've always wanted to do.
So fascinating, like the Improv, that during that whole the strike with the Improv wanting to settle and actually being a victim of arson. Well, it looks like arson. Yeah, if you don't know this,
No, I
Bud
don't.
Freeman's autobiography is really good.
I'm still reading it.
Covering this, but yeah, the comedy clubs are saying we're not going to pay any of the comics, and then Bud said, "Hey, I can't. I've got to start paying you. I'll pay you retroactive because otherwise I can't open my business." And Mitzi was saying no, and then the comics who were supporting Mitzi had a meeting, and somebody said, "Boy, we'd really be, this would get settled. This would be really good if Bud wasn't paying everyone, if the Improv wasn't there." And apparently the other comics in the meeting kind of know who it is, but have never said. But someone was like, yeah, if the Improv wasn't there.
I thought the "I'm Dying Up Here" book pretty much explicitly said who it was.
Who?
The "I'm Dying Up."
I haven't heard anyone give.
I remember they specified who it probably was. Wasn't it the same person that ran over Jay Leno during the strike?
I don't
Isn't that
know.
rascal
The
Clark
Leno
Duke?
thing, yeah. I have no idea.
Hey man,
And
if
the
I could
Leno
run over
thing
Jay
was
Leno
out
with no
picketing
and like, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Don't
I
you
mean,
love
we're
doing
getting way
podcasts, folks?
inside baseball here. But yeah, so Leno was on the picket line in front of the Comedy Store, and someone drove close, and depending on who you talk to, either they hit Leno and Mitzi freaked out, or Leno sort of threw himself there to make a thing, and that got Mitzi upset enough to settle, or there's many different versions of what happened.
And is that why Leno loves cars so much now? Is that him like facing his mortal fear?
The car.
Facing all these cars now. Like, you try throwing over me with one car? I'm gonna own 1,000 cars and never have kids.
He got hit by a radioactive car, and it turned him into a car superhero.
Yeah, one of the Car Talk brothers. Hey, I also also want to say before we get too far in, you might have heard last episode and this episode we have a new theme song, and I want to thank with my mouth Richard Wentworth for putting that together for us. What a nice theme! I feel like it really captures the ethos of the music Rick likes to listen to. So great theme song. Thank you, Richard Wentworth. And I also would be remiss if I didn't ask Eli, even though these are now sad circumstances, for an update on your Mark Maron bathroom book.
The book is going great. I would have to say. I'm still in the relationship section. He's talking to Jack Black and Kyle from Tenacious D about their relationship. Yeah.
It's funny. I never put together that his last name is just actually Gas.
Yeah.
I guess I've always said it in my head, but never realized that it was just Gas. How far in? What is that? Halfway through the book? How much left? How much more?
I'm halfway through.
Halfway through. So how many poops does that equal out to? You think before you'll be finished?
I think around July.
It's really so. Rosa, and I might get in trouble for saying this. Rosa's one of the quickest peers I've ever met in my life. She'll say, "I'm going to the bathroom," and she'll be back in seconds. You, Eli, are one of the quickest poopers I've ever heard of. That it will take you 2 months to get through half of a Mark Maron book.
Well, I have a squatty potty.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Does it work?
It does.
What does it feel like? I've never used a squatty potty.
I'm not a fan.
Imagine if it just felt right.
Okay.
It feels.
I mean,
It feels like how I've been supposed. It feels like how I'm supposed to poop my entire life.
I did. Okay.
It's a life-changing religious experience.
I did used to squat on the toilet to poop, so maybe I was on something. It is sad, of course, because Mark Maron's love, Lynn Shelton, passed away last week, and I don't know if you guys have heard his episode where he talks about it yet, but it's very gut-wrenching. I feel very sad for Mark, and I hope that he has a network of support that is, coming around for him, because I can't even imagine. When I start to think about that kind of shit, it just makes me so sad thinking about the love in my life, my cat, Diana, and what will happen when she dies.
You are going to get in trouble for this.
And I think it's also really, I think it's commendable that he would record, like in this state of like raw pain, that he would record like both a tribute to her and like a snapshot of how he's feeling, because, God knows I have canceled recordings of this podcast for like, much less than the death of a loved one. And the fact that he soldiered on and did it and like, allowed us to, see and live that kind of pain, I think is very brave and commendable.
Well, there's also the fact that, for Mark, I think the podcast is a relationship. It is the the solace, who do you want to be with when disaster strikes? And I think in some ways the podcast is, something that he counts on as well.
Well, I'm glad he has that.
I think it's definitely very close to him.
Do you guys want to talk about last week's shows before our guest joins?
Sure.
Talk about last week's social distance shows. How'd they go? Tell me about them. What's the haps?
Last week was great. The Tales from the Inside with Angela Sawyer was really good last week.
Yeah, what stood out from that to you, Eli?
Raoul Byron had a really good story about going to the checking himself into the psych ward. And he did it like during the quarantine a while ago.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he was talking about one of his roommates in the psych ward. It was, I guess it's weird saying it now, but it was very funny.
Hey, it sounds like the right kind of comedic mind could make that kind of thing funny. God knows it's not me, but I'm glad it's Raoul. Tales from the Inside, of course, every Wednesday on our website. You can catch funny stories like that.
A literal tale from the inside.
And that's true. And of course, last week we had some excellent guests on the show. We had Langston Kerman and Jesse Body and Corey Manning, Nook Ortolani, one of my faves, Lillian Devane, and Andrew Donnelly. How was it seeing some old friends and new friends, Rick? Was it nice to catch up?
Yeah, it feels really good. I'm still feeling out the show a little bit. I feel like I'm going a little too quick at some points, and Not sure on others, but I'm doing a lot more writing and a lot more preparing for the show. I'm starting to watch the clips ahead of time, which is an interesting philosophic thing. I was not watching the clips ahead of time under the Johnny Carson idea of,
Being
you
lazy.
want it to be
Oh,
fresh
sorry.
and new and interesting. But I'm finding more of the Dick Cavett thing of do as much research as you can so that you're familiar with the guest.
Is that working for you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. And one of the dynamics I'm finding interesting is I'm watching these clips thinking, wow, that's really terrific. This is the person I saw that I thought was going to have a future. So I really liked that set, or I would have kept booking them. But the people watching it are like, "Oh my God, that's 10 years ago. I was so terrible then."
Yeah, it
So
like
I'm thrilled. I'm going like, "Wow, look how great this is," and they're going like, "Oh my God, why are you forcing me to watch this?"
it does seem like the whole premise of our show is like we're basically reaching out to comics and saying like, "Hey, do you want to subject yourself to like some severe psychic pain?"
Yeah, the
Pleasure.
worst the worst I've felt so far is when we thought Shane Moss's video was only 5 minutes and it turned out to be 15 minutes, and we watched the whole thing.
Yeah. So we're trying to adjust that by doing a much shorter clip. So
We'll be airing shorter clips going forward. Of course, this week, let's look at who we've got this week: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Let's take a look. Oh, very exciting week. We've got Harrison Greenbaum,
mhm.
the famous magician,
I just
and
saw him last night on the Comedy Cellar live.
on the Comedy Central show.
No, the Comedy Cellar does a nightly show online
What?
where they do a Zoom. Yeah, they do a Zoom.
How dare they?
Bobby Kelly and two or three other comedians, including Norm and Esty, the owners.
You want to hear a funny story about Bobby Kelly and me?
Yeah.
I was my first summer in New York. I got a job barking for the comedy club, The Grizzly Pear. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It was featured heavily in Crashing, the Pete Holmes show. That's where he did his stand up, and it's like a block away from the Comedy Cellar. And so there was a group of gentlemen who were walking towards me, and I tried to bark them into the Grizzly Pear. And one of them said, "Do you know who the fuck I am? I'm Bobby Kelly. Fuck you." I was like, "Okay, sir." You know, it was really nice. It was Judah Friedlander. Judah Friedlander came and hung out with us poor barkers at the Grizzly Pear because everyone else was doing it to get stage time. I was doing it to survive and to make money, and I wasn't very good at it. There's a comic, Christian Polanco, who I was barking with, who had got in his. He was very good at barking, and he had got in his requisite like 5 people that would allow him to do a set or whatever. And so anyone he got after that, he would let me claim so that I
Oh.
could. It was very very kind of him.
Yeah.
So thank you to Christian Polanco. So we've got Harrison Greenbaum and Chris D on Friday. On Saturday, we've got Jenny Zagrino and Kendall Farrell. And on Sunday, we've got Drew Dunn, who we'll be speaking to in a little bit, and Maggie McDonald, with whom you guys are recording today.
Yes.
We
Yes,
pull the curtain down too far, but not all of these are
the
recording at the same
jig
time.
is up.
Are you, Rick, going to make sure that your suit matches for the other recording? With
I think so.
it's impressive coordination. So what an exciting
Keep that
exciting
movie
week we have
magic.
coming up. And I want to tease this. We're not, we haven't made the official announcement yet. That'll be coming soon. But we have a big show coming up on Saturday, June 6th. That is about 2.5 weeks from now. We're planning something big. So if you haven't, please go to our website and sign up for our weekly newsletter so that you can be kept abreast of all the news related to the June 6th show, which I promise you will be a comedy show. So that's exciting. We're planning something big. I can't say more now because I just can't. But we're talking to some people and we're figuring out some tech stuff, and we're going to try something big June 6th. Put it in your calendars. I'm saying it so many times so that it just sticks in your brain like a craw. June 6th.
June 6th.
Oh.
I fucked it up. It's stick in your craw, not stick in your brain like a craw. And I would have gotten away with it if not for you rascally Ricks. So thanks a lot. Ooh, what else is in the news? Hey, I've started running again.
Yeah.
You will all be pleased to know.
When did you start running?
I started running on Friday, and I've gone running every day. So today was my 5th day in a row.
Very nice.
Running. Mix of running and walking, let's be honest. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll say it. I'm out of shape, but my goal is to be in shape. And so I'm going to start running again.
How far do you run?
I do 2 miles.
Ooh, wow.
A little over 2 miles each day. and
Very
you
good.
know, planning to bump it up from there. But it's
Did you
nice.
get new? Did you get new shoes and a running outfit and prepare?
I haven't yet. I might need to treat myself because I have been reading like the running blogs that it's helpful psychologically to treat yourself to new gear, which will make you, you know, more jazzed about running. Right now, I'm wearing my old running shoes that I got last summer, which to be honest, I didn't do that much running in. I just wore them as regular shoes, but they are getting a bit worn down. And you know, my regular band t-shirts and and shorts. But I should get some. I should get some running gear. That's an expense I think that I have earned. And you know what? It's nice. I listen to audiobooks. I'm listening to The Once and Future King right now,
Oh
the
wow.
King Arthur story. And I'm also listening to One Day by David Nichols, which is a romantic comedy drama set in Britain. It's like a Nick Hornby-esque novel. And it's nice. It's just nice. I mean,
Oh,
it
man,
sucks shit. I don't know if you guys have ever tried running in a mask, but
Running is pretty rough.
especially with the mask, it's very oppressive.
Oh
And I pull
God.
it down whenever like I'm not around anybody, which is most of the time, but every so often I'll pass someone and I'll have to pull it back up on my face. And it I said this to Rosie yesterday and then I kind of was like, maybe I shouldn't say this because that's disrespectful, but it does feel a little like I would imagine being waterboarded. Feels like you're breathing in, you've just got this thing like you're sucking in over your face. It's just very suffocating. But I probably shouldn't say it's like waterboarding, and I really shouldn't have said it right now on the podcast.
So if you're not around anyone, you'll keep it on your chin.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just pull it down, and then if I see someone, I'll tug it back up.
Yeah, I do that when I hike.
Let it fog up the old glasses for a bit.
Oh yeah.
But I like it. I'm glad I'm doing it. I used to run cross country in high school, and I was always the slowest person on the team. But like, I could run, and at a certain point, it takes like 3 weeks of running every day to get over the sensation of like wanting to die. Then it starts feeling okay. So I've just got to get there, and I've decided why not do it now while I'm eating and drinking more than I ever have before, and leading a very sedentary life. Might as well start running.
Yeah, I need to get back into shape.
Yeah, man. I mean, you're in better shape than I am. So
Yeah, I'm trying to get back into my routine of like push-ups, sit-ups, crunches, squats, pull-ups.
that's coming next for me. Probably
Yeah.
June. We'll start
Eli
throwing
was
some.
doing. Eli, you were doing all of that as we were getting ready to tape a show.
I remember that I had my gym shorts in my backpack, so I just changed into them and like while we were waiting to get ready for the show, I was just doing, pull-ups or not push-ups, sit-ups.
In the club?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a gym floor. What's the difference?
What a flex on Rick.
Yeah.
I was doing. My body felt so sore after doing those squats because I did like
Oh, yeah.
I did like 30 squats and my legs. I was like sitting in the booth and my legs were buckling.
Yeah, today is like the first day where truly, like every day up until now, the next morning has been really hard on my body. Today's the first day where I think I finally like started to crest that hill where my
Yeah.
body's getting used to it.
You just
but
gotta
yeah,
like,
it
keep
hurts,
doing
and
it.
I'd be like, every time you have to get up, like any noise you make. Rose
Oh,
is like,
yeah.
What's wrong? Are you okay?
Ah.
I'm fine. I just shifted a bit in my seat.
Yeah, I just wanted to turn over and that was too much.
You a big workout guy, Rick? You ever do aerobics, cardio, weightlifting?
Nope. We've talked about this. My arms are so skinny.
Mm-hmm. They are.
Always self-conscious, so I never even went to the gym.
I was
So,
planning on it before they closed.
yeah, for me, I'm thinking it's more for me. I do more of the routine stuff. Keeps me, I walk. I walk a couple miles every day, that sort of thing, just to stay relatively in shape. But
Our guest has arrived. He's in the waiting room.
Oh, fantastic.
Anything you guys would like to get up now before our guest arrives? Any last words?
I think our guest is a great guy, and I don't want him to hear me say that.
It'll go straight to his head. All right, let's click admit. I really should have been doing this vamping thing after I clicked admit because it takes a while to connect audio. But ladies and gentlemen, our next guest coming to the show, he'll be featured on this week's From a Social Listen show. He's one of the 2019 Just for Laughs new faces. Please welcome Drew Dunn.
Hey, Drew. How's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome, Drew. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
We are awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Glad to
Good.
hear it.
How's your quarantine treating you, Drew? What's your routine?
It's been pretty good, My routine is to wake up sometime before noon.
Good.
Like that's a victory in the
It
day.
is.
you know. And then I've been working on these animations pretty much. That's been kind of like my workload is to try and get one episode of those out a week, and that's a good like 50 or so hours of work, give or take. So
Yeah,
that's been
editing's
most of
tough.
my time. What was that?
Editing is tough.
Yeah. It's just you just got to put the time in and do it.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of my time's been. I'll do the occasional virtual comedy show when they come along. Like I'm looking forward to doing the comedy studios this Saturday. And other than that, going for runs
Hey,
every a couple times a week, once a week at least, and then a couple times I'll feel good about it. And yeah, that's about it.
you mentioned you're animating, so you started an animated web series called Quarantine.
Yes,
You animate it yourself and do all the voices, I
I
assume?
do. Yep.
So, were you just looking for a project to occupy yourself with and settled on animating?
Yeah, so I mean, I had been making little animated shorts here and there, and then kind of basically my goal was just putting out one sort of video every week. So that's what I'd been doing for a while, whether it was stand up or animation or something along those lines. And then when everything kind of hit with quarantine, I was just trying to figure out a way to kind of make these jokes of things that are happening right now without just doing me sitting in front of my computer talking to my camera and doing that kind of editing. I mean, it's great, but for me, I wanted to do something that was a little bit different than that and something that challenged me a little more because I started doing them and I was recording them and I kind of just felt like it wasn't enough. So I wanted to really challenge myself and take up a lot of my time. So I was like, why don't I just, kind of I was always kind of looking for a context to take all of these characters that I'd kind of been incubating and give them a reason to all be hanging out and talking to each other. So this kind of seemed like a good way to make like a pseudo animated reality show and just kind of have a place to put all these jokes and ideas that we all have with the crazy world we're living in right now.
What
You can find
software
that
do
on
you
your
use?
website. Oh, sorry, please, Eli.
No, sorry.
No,
What?
I'm sorry.
No, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry for both of you.
I
It must
am.
be so awkward for you, Juice.
I am
This
so
marital
sorry.
squabble. Yeah, Eli had a question about the software.
Oh yeah, what software do you use to edit?
Yeah, so I'm using the Adobe Suite for all my stuff. So I
Ooh.
basically use Illustrator to draw up the characters and the backgrounds and things like that, and then character animators, what I use to actually do like the lip sync and the motion. And then I'll use Premiere Pro to kind of stitch everything together. So I usually use Character Animator, just kind of export the characters just themselves with no background, and then I'll piece it all together in Premiere Pro, which is the actual video editing software.
Now, someone who doesn't know anything about animation, everything you said sounds really impressive. And
Yeah,
involved
yeah.
and cool.
It's all. I mean, I'm all self-taught with this stuff, so for me, it was really intimidating when I first started, kind of learning the ropes of animation a couple years ago. But there's so many great resources on YouTube and different blogs and things like that that you can kind of learn those tips and tricks that I would have feel like I would have learned doing a college program or an online course or something like that. I can kind of do it at my own pace. And if I have a question of how do I do this one thing, I just look that up and do it, and then just kind of let my creativity roam through it.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Harvard. I'll teach myself animating.
Yeah.
So there's never any real like pen to paper sort of stuff. It's all done on the tablet.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do like little sketches and doodles just to give myself like a reference, and then I just use like a regular old mouse and keyboard and just kind of draw with the actual mouse itself. So
Oh wow.
I'm not much of like an artist myself as far as like drawing. I've always been the kind of one to doodle and things like that, but never enough that I was like I should be an animator. You know what I mean? I was just kind of I just wanted more of a way to do all of these voices in a way that's more digestible to people than me, yelling in an Indian accent to my camera. It's a little more digestible if I draw the character and give him a whole story and a family and things like that. And for me, that's more fun too.
So you've been
Sure.
plotting out like a story arc or
Yeah,
plotline?
I mean, for these one, I have a long term goal with this. I kind of want to transition these characters into something that could even work post quarantine. So I have a few ideas for that, but for these kind of things, I'm basically just writing them week by week and kind of integrating that story arc as I go. So I'll know like kind of the big picture of what I want, but the nitty gritty I'm just kind of doing every week. And like right now, I'm working on the script for the episode this Saturday. So basically, my usual workflow is like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I'm kind of taking it slow because Friday and Saturday, I kind of bust my ass to make sure it all gets done. So I'm kind of taking it slow, getting my ideas on the paper, starting to write the script. Then usually I'll do voiceover either like later today, I'll do some of it, or Wednesday, and then I'll do all the audio editing, things like that, get it all stitched together. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm just animating until I get it all done. So that's kind of the workflow with it.
It's impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
You've committed to this.
Yeah, and I want something that's like sustainable that I can do after comedy as well. Like I'm just trying to kind of establish some of these characters and kind of see where I can go with it, you know. So it's been fun.
Yeah, it's good to see that a lot of people are like trying to develop new skills during this whole quarantine. Like I've been trying to like get better at drawing and at editing as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And like
Are you
edit
strong, Eli?
well I have a Surface tablet with the pen, so I practice on the sketchbook app.
Oh, nice.
I'm not very good at drawing at all. I was a bad art student, but you know, same thing, YouTube tutorials and like how to. I'll just look up how to draw an apple or something like that and follow it along.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you'll find little techniques and stuff like that that'll like for me, even just adding like a little bit of shadow to the side of my character's face, I was like, wow, it actually looks really, really good now, rather than it just kind of looking like a flat face.
Yeah, you get that one line drawing and you're like, oh shit, this actually looks like a train track. I didn't.
Yeah.
Rick, you ever have any what are words now?
Artistic ability?
Rick,
No,
you ever
absolutely.
have a
not. But I do find it fascinating. I like looking at stuff I have no idea about. Like I said, I'm halfway through a YouTube thing or a masterclass thing with Herbie Hancock and jazz piano.
Oh,
And I
wow.
have no idea how to play any instrument whatsoever. But just
Yeah.
sort of throwing myself into something where it's all over my head, and you just sort of, pick out what you can and you feel around for it. That's I really find fascinating.
That's
how
great.
granular?
Just talking to Drew and figuring out, well, do you write the script first? How does all this stuff work in somebody's mind? That's I'm really curious about.
How granular does Herbie Hancock get? Like, does he get super deep into like the notes he plays? Like, how much of it are you able to actually appreciate?
It's back and forth. A lot of it is really good philosophy and art, but there's also something like Miles Davis told me to not play the 5/7, the 5/7. So
Right.
I had to work around. Yeah, I had to work around that to be able to do. So I used the C with it, and I have no idea. I think what I take away from that is like, wow, Miles Davis, a genius, told you don't just do the basic thing. Try and work not using the basic thing and see what you come up with.
Yeah.
Which has
no.
been your philosophy.
I've been learning the editing via the Whiplash method. I have
The movie Whiplash.
yeah, the movie Whiplash. What's that actor's name that yells at the kid?
J.K. Simmons, baby.
I have J.K. Simmons come to my house and yell yell at me.
Not quite my tempo, Eli. Drew, you're in New Hampshire right now.
I am in New Hampshire, yeah.
Is New Hampshire? Are they close to reopening?
I was able to get a haircut. I was pretty excited about that.
Oh.
You should have seen me last week. It was fucking down to my shoulders almost. It was crazy.
So what was that experience like going into a barbershop?
Well, I go to this woman that actually saw me at a show one time, and I was doing a joke about how I had a bad haircut, and she was like, "I actually cut hair. I can help you with that." And she's made it moderately less bad. So
Wow.
it's so she's got basically like one room in this like house that's converted into like a lawyer's office here and a chiropractor over there, and then she's got one room in the back. So I basically just wore a mask, walked in, cut my hair. Nobody else was there except me and her, and then I went back home. So it was pretty nice just to be able to get some sense of normalcy back, other than like wearing the mask. But you can kind of get over that.
Was she wearing it as well?
Yeah, she was. Yeah,
Both of you?
yeah. It's that would have been weird if I showed up with one. She's like, I don't care, I don't care at all.
You want to share a glass with me of water?
Right.
Now, does the mask help cut down on the small talk with the barber?
I wish, but not not really. No, it was just
Hard.
a lot of going, what was that? And then
Yeah.
having to say the exact same thing again. Yeah, not ideal.
Oh God, turning the barbershop more and more into the dentist's office. I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, no, you have 3 fingers in my mouth. I'm not gonna repeat that.
Now, Rick, are you shaving your own head, Rick? Are you taking care of that yourself?
Yeah. I'm cutting my own hair.
Yeah.
Wow.
th-
I made
What
the
a
mistake
talent.
of trying to cut my bangs during the quarantine, and it went horribly awry.
Yeah, my wife was like prepping herself to cut my hair. She was like watching videos and like, okay, I ordered the right scissors. I think I could do this. And then my barber's like, I can do it. She's like, oh, thank God. I was so nervous. I was definitely going to screw it up. Yeah, so.
I let my roommate cut my hair, and it turns out he's actually pretty good, but I was not
that's
sure.
good.
I was not sure at first.
Your hair
well,
looks good, Eli.
It does. He did a really good job. He's
great.
just clippers 4-1.
Yeah, practicing those skills. You can draw better now. This guy's gonna open a barber shop after all this.
Now, Drew, you're with your in-laws right now?
I am, yeah. Which I'm actually I used to obviously be working towards getting out of here. I was actually supposed to be in New York a couple months ago. That was really my plan. Was like end of March. I was gonna just find a place and get out there. I had some savings and everything like that. But now I'm super happy that I didn't, because I would be trapped in a year-long lease and no way to make money. So it would have been not ideal for sure. I mean, I was supposed to be on the road for most of April and May. So like I was supposed to be in Canada for 2 weeks. I was supposed to be in Minnesota, Arizona. Like I actually had like a decent little tour string together, and that all just kind of got washed away. So it was a bummer. But
It is a bummer.
Yep.
Is it any? Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I was gonna say, have you talked to any of those clubs? Do you get an idea of they're planning on rescheduling, or they're not sure they're going to open, or what the scene is like?
I feel like I'll get dates back from them, but the time frame is still a question mark for everybody. Like obviously, like I mean, I would go do shows if they told me to, but I still have a conscience of like I don't want to go and like I would hate it if I went and did like a show in Phoenix, for example, and they reopen and I go do a whole weekend in Phoenix, and then people start getting COVID again because they came to a comedy show in a mall. You know what I mean, or wherever it might be.
I think the Phoenix Improv may actually be doing shows.
They are at the next weekend, or maybe it's this coming weekend. They're doing shows. I was supposed to be at the House of Comedy down there, and then same thing up in Vancouver. They just opened a new club up there. But now it's a matter of, the especially with the U.S.-Canadian border, who knows when they'll reopen that. So for me, I just want to make sure I stay on top of mind of a lot of these club owners. So, I'm sending them emails as much as I can, but at the same time, it's like, if they don't know when they're going to reopen, I don't want to just keep knocking on an empty door, So just kind of trying to stay patient. That's why at least I can kind of have an outlet creatively for now. And I'm glad I've kind of been learning these skills leading up to this, because I mean, really the only thing that's changed with my schedule is stand-up comedy shows. Everything else is pretty much the same. I quit my job like 3 years ago now, and my day has been wake up, make a cup of coffee, let my dogs out, record it for Instagram of them barking and yelling across the yard, and then start getting to work on whatever like that week's project was. And then literally the only thing I'm missing is doing the shows, and then the listening to the sets and trying to get better and all that. So it's hard to like try and develop new stand-up material both through these like Zoom style shows and just with like the lack of, because really the motivation for stand-up is I wrote this and I'm going to tell it tonight, and you kind of keep that fire underneath a new idea or a new joke as time goes along. But to kind of like go, that'll be funny in 2 to 6 months whenever they let us do like it's kind of hard to like maintain that. So I'm just kind of trying to keep my thoughts together as much as I can, put the jokes out on whatever avenue makes sense, and then for things that I can work on or things that are topical for now, I'll throw those out in Zoom comedy shows. And really those are kind of like this. I mean, this is a much better avenue for me than like just yelling into space. At least there's some sort of interaction for sure.
Yeah. So have you had good Zoom comedy experiences?
Yeah, I mean, none of them have been bad. It's one of those things where it's almost like you're starting comedy all over again, where you're like really, really nervous about it and you're worried about it doing. And then the second they're over, I'm like, man, I'm really glad I did that. I feel really good about it. Whether they were bad or good or whatever, a lot of them are no response, no audience, or no like talk after or anything like that. So those ones are a little like harder to like palate as far as like, I don't know if I did well, but I had fun kind of thing. But then a few of them that I've done, they'll have like little VIP sections of people that'll actually have their cameras on and mics unmuted, so you can actually get like that physical laughter that you hear as it goes along. So those have been fun. Those have been probably the most rewarding, because you can actually get at least somewhat of a gauge on new materials and ideas and things like that.
Is this the future of stand-up comedy, even once everything reopens? Zoom shows.
I was going to ask you guys the same thing. I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot. Like, is there still going to be an audience for virtual comedy shows after all of this? And I think with how much, especially the younger generation, is consuming content online, I think there will be an audience for this. And I think it's going to grow and grow and grow as time goes along, because we've basically gotten over the hump that was really holding back a lot of these virtual comedy shows from existing in the first place, which is why would they? What's the reason behind it? But now we've gotten over that. They exist. They're here now. There's people doing them every week. I think that I mean, it's crazy that I can go and do a show with comics from LA and New York and Canada and Japan and all these different places, all from my house. So that's the coolness of that. And I think if you start to see more and more like bigger name comics with followings doing things along those lines, that you're gonna see a coexistence of live shows and virtual shows, or maybe even virtual tickets to live shows. I think
Yeah.
more people will be apt to
Yes.
consume live, more amateur style stand up comedy than a Netflix special from the comfort of their own home. I think you'll see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, but this has been pretty hard for us, but we've at least been able to like build a system that will allow us
Yeah.
to sell digital tickets once
Yeah.
we can reopen. What do you think, Rick? Do you think there's going to be an appetite for digital comedy once everyone can go outside again?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's nice about it is that it's easy to sample. You know,
Yeah.
you're not even a Netflix special. It's like, okay, I'm gonna watch an hour and a half of this person.
Hmm.
You know, all these Zoom shows are. I mean, Butterboy cut their sets from 12-minute sets to 6-minute sets because the
Right.
thinking is, someone on the screen for that long isn't as interesting.
Sure.
So yeah, I think my feeling is I think this is sort of like radio came along or television came along, where everything just keeps getting more and more intimate. I was
Hmm.
talking with Eli about this. I wonder if doing our show, which is more of an interview show, like this, would be better than doing it with me on the stage.
Right.
Simply with that thinking of like, well, the more intimate seems to be where it's going.
Yeah.
In vaudeville, you had to have a big voice that could reach the back of a theater, and
Right.
then radio comes on, and it's like, well, why are you yelling?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
fine. Now you're just talking to me. And then television comes along. It's like, well, I can see you. You don't have to be a big, broad actor. So, yeah, I wonder if stand up is getting more and more towards that, that we're 1 foot away from each other doing
Yeah. Well, and I think that's really appealing too, especially for like I said, those bigger comics that feel like they're unattainable or like you can't touch them. They're kind of bigger than the room that they're in sometimes. So like I mean, I picture it from like a consumer aspect. If I had the chance to buy a virtual ticket for $10 to go peep in on what a comedy seller is like on a Saturday night or a comedy store room or
Mhm.
even like the studio, I see like the ability to just kind of peek in and see what's happening. As long as the shows themselves are interesting and the people like the
Yeah.
comedians that are there and you develop that reputation, then I totally see coexistence there for sure. And because then you still maintain that intimacy without kind of because my thought process is those people weren't going to buy a ticket and show up at the show anyway. So it's not like you're even losing an ass in the seat, right? You're still able to
Yeah.
kind of maintain that general flow because the people that are going to attend these shows, a lot of them are the same that may go to a live show and this is what they're doing for now. But a lot of people that that even just watch like a live stream on Facebook, they aren't interested in going out to a show every night or every other night or even once a week, even I think.
Mhm.
So I think the more options people have to consume this type of entertainment, the better for sure.
it.
And
And,
I was just say where it gets difficult is that the comedy club scene is really built on the '80s.
yeah.
It's built on this idea of the ticket pays for the acts, and then the bar makes all their money selling alcohol. I mean,
Right.
people aren't buying alcohol anymore,
Wow.
Not as much for
and if
sure.
you're
Yeah.
only getting $5 a ticket, can you pay the acts? Yeah,
Right.
an open micer might do it for free. And the other
Sure.
thing you run into is once it's online, hey, can it be just copied and kept?
Right.
Is the act giving up their rights to their act forever? You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a thought, right? Because it's way easier for somebody to like. I could be recording this right now, and you
yeah.
guys wouldn't even know. Like if I was recording this and then put it up online, would that? That's much easier to do than somebody holding up a camera and not getting caught within the comedy
Mhm.
club for sure.
Mhm.
But I think that's almost like that's almost easily negated with like an NDA or something like that. Or if
Yeah.
somebody does post something from the show that they aren't authorized to do, then they can just get fined for it. And then I think you would be able to shut that down pretty quick. I mean, there's people that would obviously negate that and go around. But I think one thing that we miss more than anything now in comedy is that attention is the most important thing when it comes to trying to be a person in the online space. You need
Yeah.
eyes on you. It's not whether or not you're trying to put out the perfect hour special that nobody's ever seen before and nobody's even seen a glimpse of it and you surprise the whole world with it. people want little bite-sized things, and they want to remember your face, they want to remember your name, and like a few jokes that you do. That's what's going to come to mind. You could say name of a comic, I'm probably going to think of their jokes before I think of anything else. And as long as comics continue to create new things and constantly write and try new ideas, then I think you'll have a balance of, yeah, all my stuff's out there, but I also have all these people that like me because of that. And they also want to hear that joke live again. Just because they saw it on some bootleg recording doesn't mean that they're not going to want to see it live. Like for me, one of my favorite, I went and saw Brian Regan live at the Wilbur. And one of my favorite things he did is at the end of his show, he comes out for an encore, and the crowd knows, because they've seen him so many times, they just start yelling requests from old jokes.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
does an old bit. And to see an old bit live like that is like, I think as comics, we overvalue how much like the surprise factor is. I think some people like they just want to hear that joke again. I'm sure you get that all the time, Rick. You do the request thing too, even like, oh, which joke do you want to hear? Like,
Yeah.
I've done shows where I'm like, oh, I know that someone's here that's heard that joke. I'm not going to do that joke. And then they're after the show, they're like, oh, why didn't you do that joke that I know? It's like, well, because you know it. That's why I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I brought my friends to hear you. I've been telling them about this.
Yeah.
Do it.
I
Exactly.
I saw Jim Gaffigan at the Wilbur a couple years ago, and he did an encore, and people like begged him to do Hot Pockets, and he did Hot Pockets as the encore, and it was great. I loved it.
I've worked with Louis a couple times when he's opened the
Who?
show by saying, "I'm
Hooey?
going to do Bag of Dicks at the end."
Anderson?
Yeah, right.
Drew, are you writing new material to fit within these contexts of these Zoom shows, or are you trying to adapt your existing material?
A little bit of both, because I think some of my bits I'm able to kind of integrate into like some sort of context. Especially, I mean, some of these Zoom shows I've done like 40-minute sets, so I'm like, I have to do material for that, but I still want to make it seem relevant and not me just kind of going back into the bucket, if you will. A lot of it is kind of, I mean, I write down notes the same way that I wrote down notes before. If it kind of hits me, I'll jot it down, and then I'll think about it. I still talk with my buddies pretty much every day online in one way or another, to kind of throw those ideas out there without them even knowing. Like I can still get some sort of gauge on that. But as far as like full on writing, not as much. I'm definitely not going back and listening to these Zoom sets the way that maybe I should in order to try and get better at them. But at the same time, I think that like I'm just looking forward to getting back into the live stage, because there's really nothing like it. As much as you can try and recreate it from your living room, there's nothing like being on stage in front of real people in the world. This alone is its own skill to be able to talk and do, but I think they're two totally different things. You get a totally different feeling when you're on stage in front of people. So a lot of stuff that it's in my brain, I know won't translate to an audience that isn't as engaged, that's sitting on their couch with a mimosa they made yesterday in their hand. You know what I mean? Like you have to have that
warm mimosa.
Yeah,
And a bucket of KFC.
So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely still writing, but I'm not. My major focus as far as new material is like riffing about it in something like this, or in a Zoom show. Like I'll have the nugget, and then I'll just kind of talk about it the way I would on a podcast, or even. And the good thing is I kind of had this skill, because when I first quit my job, I started doing a solo podcast for a while. So that was just me literally doing this with nobody else. So to kind of get over that initial weirdness, like I'm totally fine with doing that, even if I know some people are listening. You might hear my dogs barking in the background now too.
No, I'm totally intimidated by just the idea. I've watched. Well, I saw you you did one where people just kept saying, "Do the robot voice."
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm totally intimidated because so much of my upbringing, everything I learned in comedy was to take this thing that looked natural and make it artificial.
Right.
You gotta take this artificial and make it look like, oh, we're just having conversations. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm still baffled. Like, do you set up a microphone and a curtain? Do you have a set list in front of you?
Yeah.
How you make it seem, how you make set material seem like a conversation is
Right.
yeah,
and from
it's an entirely different skill.
For sure. And for me, it's been a lot of like, the good thing is you can have notes up. So if I have a brand new idea, I'll just put it on my monitor right next to the Zoom show, and I can at least kind of have that checklist without having to go over to the stool and look at something. You know, you can at least kind of maintain that natural feeling of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and that Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it is kind of fun to see how different comedians do it though, because some people do. They stand up and they have a curtain and a little logo
yeah.
behind them and all that kind of
I
stuff.
haven't seen one of those yet.
Yeah,
Somebody
there's
sent me a
there's
picture of
couple.
one.
Yeah, a couple people have done it that way. Some people are like this. Some people are laying down on their couch with a microphone on their chest. You can tell
Yep.
they gave up weeks ago. Uh,
I've
that
gotten
was
requests. I've gotten a request from a couple comics that they want a picture of the studio
oh yeah.
stage so that they can use that
Ah.
as the.
Yeah, this is the one I usually use, which I drew this as like a background for one of the animations I did. It's
Oh, wow.
like a drape thing. So normally I have one that'll like it's without the microphone and everything like that. But yeah, that's like as complicated as I'll get.
Yeah.
Look, I'm at the comedy studio.
Oh,
You're
God.
right there.
That's spooky.
Feels like I'm back at home, guys.
Yeah.
Rick, you were teaching a comedy class that you had just started teaching a new semester of comedy class when we had to shut down, and you put the class on hold because maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but it's hard to teach new comics the skills when you're not able to do it live.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think? Do you ever think about what's that?
I was
Go
just gonna
ahead.
say, like some of the improv places are teaching improv online, and I just don't know how, you know, how you can make that worth it.
You'll have to
Yeah,
take
I
the
think
class to find out.
Yeah, I think that almost goes back to it being a totally different skill. You're almost teaching them to be good YouTube streamers or
Yeah.
Twitch streamers then rather than being stand-up comedians at that point.
I feel like teaching improv over Zoom is like teaching them how to be a good podcaster, just how to have a conversation.
Yeah, right, right. What were you gonna ask though? Sorry.
Oh
I
no.
interrupted you.
You ever think about adapting your lessons, Rick? But it sounds like you don't.
A little
Think about
bit. I
that.
mean, I taught this class way back in the early '90s, and I've been bringing it back, and a lot of it is the students bringing in what they think is funny and bouncing it up here and being an audience for each other and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, I'm toying with it in my head of how do you take out that interactivity,
Right.
but
I mean, there could be a lucrative.
it's a whole different thing.
Summer is coming up. Parents don't know what they're going to do with their kids. Maybe comedy Zoom summer class.
Well, it's also
Yeah.
fun. Talking a little bit, getting into the weeds a little bit. Improv Boston is having trouble because their whole business model is based on having classes and having a regular source of income.
Yeah.
Now that that's distributed or disrupted, it's
Yeah.
you're hoping that the landlord is understanding, or I mean, a lot of really terrific businesses are just not making it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the hard thing is it's almost like a survival of the fittest kind of thing. Who can adapt? Who can overcome this kind of roadblock that everybody's dealing with? And that's the thing is it's across every industry. Comedy's one thing; it's every place. So who's able to do takeout orders? Who's able to give a 6-pack to go? Who's able to do there's a venue, Tupelo Music Hall in Londonderry. They just built a stage outside their main entrance so they can do drive-in music shows and
Wow.
drive-in comedy.
Yeah.
So
I
they're
think
starting to
doing
do
the
those.
first Friday. Is
First
it?
one's on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Landwehr's doing that. Yeah.
yeah. Paul Lambert's doing. I just talked to him about it the other day. So that's really neat. So the ability to kind of still bring in artists and have them put on a really safe show and a great show, and as a consumer, that's something I would totally go do with my wife. Right. That's something different. It's like a drive-in theater, but it's less formal. It's in a parking lot. It's close to home. Why not go sit in the car and hopefully not get a Dewey on the way home? Right. I mean.
Right, that does present a challenge.
Yeah.
Everyone knows comedy shows are best enjoyed for the most part with a couple drinks.
Yes.
Self-driving cars. Just get the self-driving car.
I hadn't thought of that. Like a self-driving car.
Yeah.
Hey, car, let's go to a show.
Yeah.
The car's like, give me the unleaded gas. Like, really?
No, I'm sorry. The car's he's our driver tonight. He can't have any.
Drew, you're going to be a guest on our From a Social Distance show this weekend. And
Yes.
the theme of the show is we have comics watch their old sets and then discuss them. What was it like seeing a video of yourself from a few years ago?
It was
embarrassing or?
a little cringy for myself. I mean, I feel like anytime you go back and
Yeah.
watch something that you're like, man, I made that better. Fuck, why do I have to watch it the way it is?
Yes, yeah, that's got to be
We've
tough.
discovered that is a common theme among our guests.
But I'll do that every once in a while. Usually once a month or so, I'll go back and dig up because I've audio recorded every show, so I'll go dig up some random old set and I'll just listen to it just to see if there's any sort of nugget that I left in there. Or sometimes you'll like start working on a joke and go, I got nothing for it, then you move on to something else. But now I might have the rest of that, so
Sure.
I'll both go through like old notebooks and then old sets like that. But yeah, it was a trip, man. I was trying to like pinpoint, like I was trying to remember being there that night, you know what I mean? But it's really fun to try and get yourself back into like that mindset of back then, because comedy, you're constant every night I feel like a new comedian, you know what I mean? As far as like I'm constantly trying to do something, even if it's just the smallest thing. I want, like, even if it's just a facial expression, I want something a little bit different every single time I get on stage. So to be able to go back and look like I just ran backwards 10 miles and watch myself. It's interesting. It's fun.
Yeah, we were saying it's a little weird for me because when we came up with this idea, I was like, oh wow, this will be really great because I thought that set was great.
Yeah.
Because I'm Chris. So to me, it's like, wow, let's go back and enjoy this really wonderful thing
Right.
that I saw for the first time. And you're like, yeah, shit, that was the first time.
Yeah, you should see that joke now. Well, that's also an ego thing, I think, with a lot of comics. It's like, no, it's better. You should see it now. Let me tell you, it's really good. Yeah, no, that was a laugh. You should see the laughs I get. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, that's the thing about it too, though, is even if it was a good set, watching yourself, no matter whether it's good or bad, still feels weird.
Yeah, definitely. It puts like a weird feeling in your chest. That's what I got. I just get like that. Like, oh yeah, okay.
But as a performer, that's something you kind of gotta get over.
For sure. Yeah, I mean that's
your
something that
goal
like I
is
can
what?
listen to my sets all day. It's visually, it's definitely something different. It's
Ultimately, your goal is to be on television and be on Netflix, and
That's right.
it's a visual medium.
So I want everyone else to watch me. I don't want to watch me.
Rick, you have access to all these masters. Have you watched yourself hosting from say 2006? Like, have you delved into that yet? Because I would love to maybe do an episode of our social distance show where you're in the hot seat, watching your old
that'd be cool.
shit. Have you thought about that? Like, is that something you'd be interested in?
Sure, I wouldn't mind. I think I've been seeing them all, but only me introducing people.
Right.
So yeah, I haven't gone back and seen a lot of material or anything. Every once in a while, Brett will say, oh, you did a story about being at Blockbuster that was really good. I'll go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah, was that good? Why did I stop doing that? Oh, that's right, it didn't have an ending.
Right.
And then Blockbuster had an ending.
Now it does. Exactly. Blockbuster ended. That's the ending. I'd love to do that, Rick. I'd love to see you confront your past.
We'll make a compilation of all your hosting sets.
The truth
And comedy as well.
Yeah.
Drew, of course, we saw the sad news this past week that Fred Willard passed away.
Yes.
Rick posted a picture of the two of you, of some other comics, with Fred Willard in Nebraska, I think. I wanted to hear a little bit about that trip, because Rick has fond memories.
Yeah, and actually I have to thank Drew, because that picture is on my old hard drive, which I wasn't able to get, so Drew sent me that picture.
Yeah, I fished up that picture for him. Yeah, that trip was like, I was only a couple years into comedy when I got that festival, which for me was like, it felt like a big rite of passage as far as like, that was my first time leaving New England, getting on an airplane to go do comedy somewhere, and just to kind of get that seal of approval from such a prestigious like association essentially was like, I felt like I was like now I'm a comedian, like now I feel like I'm a part of the secret club, like that's at least what it felt like for me. My wife came with me on the trip. I felt like a professional. They meet you at the airport. You go on we went on a bus for like 2 hours. That's actually where I became buddies with like Mark Norman and Joe List and those guys. That's where I initially met them, and then we had been staying in touch over the last few years. Because basically they give you a host family when you're out there. So we were assigned with Betty. It was me and Joe List and my wife, and they drive you around everywhere in their cars and everything like that, and they whatever you want. So we were on Joe's routine pretty much. It's like, we're going to go to Starbucks at this time. We're going to get my tea, and then we can do whatever else after that. Like, okay, yeah, no problem. So, but it was great, man. I mean, that was my first time really performing in a legitimate theater, in the Johnny Carson Theater, which it's attached to a high school, but it's like a 1,200 seat theater. It's unbelievable. And I mean, that whole trip was just really, really fun. We went on like they give you a bunch of activities to do. Like we went to go see Johnny Carson's childhood home that they had remodeled and everything like that. Not fully remodeled, but like basically touched up. And we got to sign the wall there. We went and did like a barbecue at a big corn farmer, and I was like, wow, man, these corn farmers work like really, really hard. Like this is a gigantic cornfield. He's like, yeah. So what I do is I wake up, I press this button on my phone, and that turns on the sprinklers for the 50 acres. I was like, he's barely even a farmer. This guy's using satellites to chop his
He's
corn down.
adapting too. So what was Fred
Yeah,
Willard's
no, all the
involvement?
more power to him. Yeah, he's just wearing the cowboy boots for looks, though.
Yeah,
That's
well, sure.
sorry.
I've heard they're comfy. So what was Fred Willard's involvement? Was he?
So Fred Willard was he was the honoree for the Lifetime Achievement Award, I believe. So basically, Eddie Brill, who was the one who puts the whole festival together, as far as like the comedians and everything like that, he would go and do like a Johnny Carson pseudo style talk show with Fred Willard, where he just basically asked him questions, everything like that,
Okay.
and he gets his award, and then he was kind of backstage for most of that night, just kind of talking with the comedians, and then at that picture that Rick had was actually at one of the after parties after the whole festival was over, after the Saturday night show. We were all at like the mayor's something or other's house, and it was like a really, really nice place. It overlooks the whole town. It was like on the only hill in all of Nebraska, and yeah, I mean that was great. I mean that guy's a legend in my mind. I mean he's one of those guys that especially in my life, I've only ever seen as a star. You know what I mean? Like he's only ever been in these great comedies that I've loved. And so to be able to like meet somebody like that and actually shake their hand, it kind of broke down that barrier of like, oh, that's a guy. That's just a normal person. Like though that level of success is achievable because he's just like to have a conversation, like a normal conversation with a guy like Fred Willard. It kind of breaks down that like that up on a pedestal feeling that you put especially back in the day that you would put celebrities on. Now it's a little bit different because there's so many celebrities, but I mean that guy was on his own level. So to be able to kind of break down that wall was like really rewarding, and just for him to even entertain me with a conversation was like that just proves his own character, you know.
Was that your only time interacting with him, Rick? Had you any other?
Pretty
prior
much
future?
because I just went there as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was, I was just watching shows and hanging out and everything. So, Drew was actually performing with them and stuff. But yeah, that's weird when you see a celebrity like that or an artist like that. I think I can call him an artist.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
As you're talking to him, you wonder, okay, are you that guy? Are you going to talk like him?
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, it's a really different experience to, you get into a conversation and all of a sudden you have to remind yourself, oh wait, he's that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
I think I got that feeling. I didn't meet him personally, but when Stephen Colbert transitioned from the Colbert Report to just being regular Stephen Colbert, when he did the transition to the Tonight Show, you're like, oh, that's a completely different person from the character. It's just a guy.
Right. Yeah, it kind of made you realize it was a character on the Colbert Report. It was really kind of like a ramped up version of whatever he wanted to be. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it sucks anytime somebody like that passes away. But with that being said, at least he was able to live a long life, leave a legacy behind that people will be able to enjoy for years and years and years and years. So
I mean, yeah, we watched Best in Show the night he died.
yeah,
Rosenheim.
classic.
Just like what a gift his body of work is now.
Yeah.
Like he just has such a wide breadth of amazing shit you can fall back on. And
Definitely.
Well, and I suggest you can go all the way back. I mean, he started with Ace Trucking Company. And this is when they would have
Gonna write that down.
improv. They would have sketches on the Tonight Show.
Oh wow.
So there's like footage of him as like a 22-year-old doing sketches
That's
on television, and then he was in Second City as that started. So he was part of that original crew there.
Yep.
Yeah, just his background in comedy is historic.
Right.
Well, we are wrapping. We are nearing the end of the show. We like to wrap up the shows with everyone going around the horn, giving a comedy recommendation, something in the world of comedy they've watched or experienced this week that they've enjoyed. Rick, do you wanna kick it off with a comedy rec?
Nope. Okay, I'll go with for the
I thought you said no
recommendation.
for a
I'll go
sec.
with Alan Zweibel's book. And now it's sitting here. So, Laugh Lines. Alan Zweibel is one of those comedy writers you you probably know of. I mean, he's written everything for Billy Crystal, Saturday Night Live, the Larry Sanders Show. He wrote. He was right there with. He created the It's Gary Shamling Show, and he started out writing for old Catskill comics just as that scene was fading. And there's a lot of terrific stories about these old comics who just he wrote a terrific joke of hey, you hear about this sperm bank? It's the only bank where you lose interest after a deposit. But just a great joke. But these old Catskill guys would go like, yeah, I went to the sperm bank. I took a withdrawal. I'm not interested.
Right,
Like,
right,
no, you're
right.
missing the whole joke. So it's just a lot of really terrific old school comedy stories like that, along with a lot of name dropping and just funny stuff.
That's
What's
great.
the name of the book again?
It's called Laugh Lines by
Laugh
Alan Zweibel.
Cool. Do you have something, Drew? Something you
Yeah,
enjoy?
so I watched on Netflix the Middleditch and Schwartz or something
I've heard.
like that.
Yeah,
I forget.
I've
I
heard
can't
good
remember
things.
the exact. Oh, it's so good. That's
Mhm.
that's one of the. I mean, it's hard for me to like really get into like a live performance stand-up comedy now on Netflix and really enjoy it from end to end. And
Mhm.
the way those guys did it is that they did 3 shows that actually made it to air. Who knows if they did more, but 3 unique shows, all totally improv, but it's still kind of like it's like pseudo stand-up crowd work to sketch and with obviously a ton of improv. And that was one of the few times I actually was like laughing in my living room out loud. So I definitely highly recommend that.
Cool. Yeah, I've been wanting to watch that for a while. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
both Middleditch and Schwartz.
Yeah.
I watched, of course, Best in Show was great, but I saw last night on YouTube the cast of Community, which is a show I
Ooh,
love,
yeah.
reunited for a table read of their excellent episode, Cooperative Polygraphy. And it was such a joy to like reconnect. It was the same feeling I had with that Parks and Rec reunion episode, where it was just such a treat and such a like it was like a soothing balm almost to just like see my friends again who I've never met, but like
Yeah.
it was really cool to see them interact. And it now Rose and I are going through and rewatching Community, and I discovered it was a really important show to me because I was connecting with everything. Like I knew every line of that episode basically, and it's been really nice to relive Community. So it's on Netflix. You can watch the whole Community show, and you can of course on Community's YouTube page they've got the live episode, the live read, and then a Q&A afterwards. So I highly recommend that.
Yeah,
Now,
my
Eli,
wife and I just started watching Community. I was going to say my wife and I just started watching Community during this quarantine, so it's been really fun to kind of like think to myself, like, how did I miss this show when it was live? Like, there's so many things you just miss a good one like that.
Yeah, I only watched it for the first time like 2 years ago when my friend told me about it, and I like binged it as soon as I started watching it.
Yeah, Chevy Chase is a treat.
He has this reputation of being a dickhead, which I believe, but my God, he's really, really funny.
In the show, so funny.
They almost wrote to that character. Yeah, they wrote to like let's just make him an outrageous old xenophobe and see what happens, you know? Yeah.
Oh my God, he's great at this role. Who knew?
And Eric Charles Nielsen, of course, we saw pop up in the first season, who got to start at the studio, plays Garrett, so that was cool. Have you watched it, Rick? Have you seen any Community? No. You should check it out. I think you'd like it. It's like a deconstruction of sitcom tropes, but it's also a really enjoyable sitcom. So that's my rec. Eli, you want to take us home?
Yes. Yesterday my roommate was watching on Hulu. It's one of the best animated like comedy shows ever. Is the Venture Brothers on Adult Swim.
Oh,
okay.
The Venture
I've never
Brothers.
seen that, but
It is hilarious.
But it's the best.
It's very well constructed. Like it's got like they're on season 7 right now, but it's the continuity, the storylines, the way it progresses is fantastic, and the joke, and it's hilarious all the way through.
All right.
Really good show.
Thank you, Eli. What a worthwhile addition to our comedy recommendations.
I like contributing.
You sure do. And speaking of contributing, you are the mastermind of our final segment, which is local business recommendations. If there's a local business you would like to champion that's struggling during this hard time, now is the space to give them props. So Eli, you want to kick us off with that?
I do. I think Rick's recommended them before, but I want to recommend Rebel Rebel Wines in Bow Market, Somerville. I got a recommendation from them twice now for the past couple of weeks because I will bring wine over to have dinner with my girlfriend, and both times very good recommendations.
You're at the wine stage with this.
I've been with wine for a while. Yeah.
Up in with what?
Oh, my lady girl.
Yes, Eli called her his lady girl on a work meeting, and we all decided that we'd never want to hear that again.
And yet here we are.
How about you, Rick? You got a local rec?
Yeah, I'll mention the not necessarily just Rebel Rebel, but the whole Bow Market has an outdoor market each Wednesday and Saturday, I believe, where you just get in line and everyone is 6 feet apart from each other, and you just go from vendor to vendor and
Awesome.
pick that up. And so just lots of great stuff. But on top of that, I'm going to go with Eli's idea and go with Jerry's Liquors, which is right in that block.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to not drink, and they've got an unbelievably terrific selection of non-alcoholic stuff.
Oh, cool.
They've got that athletic brewery, which Janet McNamara turned us on to, and there's like 6 different types of non-alcoholic beers that they carry, and
Great.
it's really been helping.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jerry's Liquors is excellent. Big fan. I'd like to give a shout out to the Camberville Hospitality Fund, which is a collective of it's a fundraiser for out of work bartenders in the Cambridge Somerville area. So you can Google the Camberville Hospitality Fund, and maybe throw a few bucks their way. You have something in New Hampshire town, Drew? That you'd
Yeah,
like to shout out?
yeah. I'll shout out Kinsley House of Pizza. The owner Brian is a good friend. He's come to multiple comedy shows in the past. Loves stand up comedy. So, and they make fantastic Greek style pizza. So, Kinsley House of Pizza on Kinsley Street in Nashua is a great spot, and they do curbside pickup now. So they'll come out with gloves and masks, give you pizza through your car, and then you're on your way. So yeah,
Awesome.
it's one of the few takeouts I've gotten since the whole thing started. So.
Oh, good for you. You're cooking a lot.
Yeah, the wife's
Nice.
cooking a lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Still counts.
Yeah.
The website is drewduncomedy.com.
Yes, it
You
is.
can find his quarantine web series, and he'll be on the Comedy Studio from a social distance this weekend. Drew Dunn, thank you so much. What a treat this was.
Yeah, thank you guys. Good
Thank you
hanging
so
out with
much, Drew.
You as well.
So much.
Yeah,
It's gonna
we'll
be
see
it
you
for
later.
us. We'll talk to you next week. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.